Okay, here's our video on equations with fractions. So we did equations, we multiplied, we divided, we added, we subtracted equations, but now let's use fractions. So what if we had 1/5 plus g equals 2/5? Again, we're going to do the same method we would use if we just use regular integers. Again, we have a plus sign here, so we want to do the opposite. Now, we don't see a sign near the 1/5, but we know it's positive, so we're going to minus the 1/5. It crosses out. Okay? And whatever you do to one side, you want to do to the other side. So we're going to minus 1/5 on this side. Okay? Again, I'm minusing because there was a positive sign here. When you don't see a sign, it's positive. Okay? So now we have g is going to equal 1/5. Right? And let's check. What's 1/5 plus 1/5? 2/5. So that's how we do it with fractions. But if we had this problem, now the variable's on the other side, it doesn't matter. How would you do that? Okay, well, you see a minus 2/5, so we want to do the opposite. Plus 2/5. That cancels. And remember the rule, whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So we want a plus 2/5 on this side. 1/5 plus 2/5 is 3/5. So 3/5 equals r, or r equals 3/5. Now let's look at a problem like this. We're saying a number divided by 5 equals 2/5. Now, you can also write it like this. 1/5 b equals 2/5. Anytime you see a number on top, on below a letter. For example, let's say this was, I'll give an example here. What if we had, x over 2? Well, x over 2 is also half of x. What if I had m over 3? Well, m over 3 is also 1/3 x. Right? So here, when we had b over 5, b over 5 is also 1/5 b. So you can rewrite it if you want. Right? So we have 1/5 b equals 2/5. Or b over 5 equals 2/5. It's the same thing. So we have a couple of options here. We can do it this way, or we can do it this way. Now, if we do it this way, remember the rules. We can multiply up, or we can divide down. Here, we can multiply up. We can do 2/5 times 5. Right? And when we cross out the 5s, we get 2 over 1, and that's 2. So b is 2. Shouldn't 2/5 equal 2/5? Now, if we did it the other way, we have 1/5 b. So what do we want to do? We want to divide out the 1/5. Remember, this is multiplication. 1/5 times b. That cancels out. Whatever you do to one side, do to the other. And you have division here. Now we have 2/5 divided by 1/5. Right? The top number is always first when we divide. It's 2/5 divided by 1/5. And with division, remember, always in division, this turns into multiplication. And we flip. We get the reciprocal. We flip the last fraction. Right? So we had 2/5 divided by 1/5. Bring it up here. 2/5 divided by 1/5. We would flip it. 2/5 times 5 over 1. And our answer is 2 over 1, or 2. The same answer we had before. Right? So our answer is 2. Okay, see if you can do this problem. What's another way of writing it? Remember, this is also 1/3 x equals 1/7. So 1/3 times x has to equal 1/7. We can do it two ways. Let's try this way first. Again, remember, we can multiply up. 3 over 1 times 1/7. is 3/7. That's one way of doing it. So now we know that x has to be 3/7. X equals 3/7. The other way, we want to divide. We're going to make a complex fraction here. We're going to divide the 1/3. Whatever we do to one side, do to the other. Now we have 1/7 divided by 1/3. Remember, this is division. So what do we have? We have 1/7 divided by 1/3. Remember, in division, what happens? We want to flip the last fraction and make it multiplication. So this becomes 1/7 times 3/1, which equals 3/7. Same answer we had previously. Now, what if we had a problem with a mixed number? All right, let's try this with a mixed number. 2 1/3 m equals 4/5. How would you do that? First thing you should do is make this mixed number improper. So 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7, so we get 7/3. We just rewrote the equation. How did I get 7/3 again? Remember, 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. That's how we make improper fractions. So here we're going to divide the 7/3 on both sides, and it cancels out. Whatever you do to one side, do to the other. Now we have 4/5 divided by 7/3. Okay, again, we're going to get 4/5 divided by 7/3. Remember, with division, we turn it into multiplication, and we flip the last fraction. So now we get 4/5 times 3/7, and you get 12/35. Right, so 12/35 we'll plug in for the m. M is 12/35. So don't forget to write that on your answers. M equals 12/35. Let's look at another way of solving for m. You can also make a proportion. If you cross multiply, 8 times m is 8m, and 2 times 2 is 4. Right, so now you have 8m equals 4. Now we have an algebraic equation. 8 times a number equals 4. So we have to divide out the 8 because it's multiplication. Whatever you do to one side, do to the other. And now you see m equals 4/8. Right? Or you can reduce it. M could be 2/4. Right? But that also could be reduced to 1/2. So m is 1/2.